Coming up on Talk is Cheap, we take a look at the Bermuda Triangle. Is this some weird stuff, or can this be explained? Up next on Talk is Cheap. Welcome to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. I'm your host, Dan Hohlfeld. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is episode 130, and we are keep cranking them out here. And to my left is none other than, where the hell is that Pete Halbleib?
Oh, hey guys, what's up? I was distracted there. How's it going, Planet Earth and beyond? Pete Halbleib here with Dan Hohlfeld. Talk is cheap. Hope you're doing well.
We're cheap as talk, and
talk is cheap.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you love this shirt. I think this one is actually kind of underrated. It's like, I like it how it's like there, like you see disclosure / now, but it's not like, you know, a big UFO or something in your face.
It's not like, it's not in your face. It takes a little bit to understand. Pretty like in the shadows type.
So it gets people thinking a little bit. If you guys want to have one of these shirts or thinking about it, the holidays will be coming up. I'm going to put a special in. I'll probably get that going about in December, run it through all the way till the new year there. So we got all these shirts over for purchase, and the cover up has been a favorite. That one's been getting the most
that's a cool
hits,
one.
If you will.
Yep.
Very good, in your face, and it really gets people thinking like, wait a minute, that stuff is real. And then, yeah, of course it's real. You can talk to people, educate them a little bit. You want to be a little more mysterious and not have such a big UFO thing in the face? Disclosure / now, very nice. Fist one is showing your power breaking through the wall suppression. And of course, we got mugs, posters, and stickers, and a beach towel as well. It's all there.
There we go. Yeah.
Phone cases and the busted nuts.
What's that about? Is that just for fun, Dan?
I decided to make some fun shirts that somebody might buy.
I don't get it. What does busted nut mean?
You don't know what it means?
No, why don't you show us, Dan?
Sure. On the X-rated version.
Yeah. Wait. Go see his other channel for that, I suppose. Are you accepting T-shirt designs? Like if
people have a good one. I always thought about, maybe doing a contest at some point, but I haven't got any of that worked out right now.
Send a file to our email address, and
just gotta make sure it's like high quality. See, we get into little technical difficulties because it's got to be high quality image, so it prints correctly
and all that. Well, if you give them some ideas, Dan can do it. If it's that good, Dan, we can work with it, right? But it's got to be good,
right?
So don't send us your junior varsity effort. It's got to be cool. And any T-shirts that we decide to run, K2D4 Network and Talk is Cheap will have sole ownership of the design moving forward.
Well said. Well, thank you guys for joining us today on this episode 130 of Talk is Cheap.
Wow, 130 already, Dan.
130, yes.
Wow.
We are on.
Are we on pace to hit 200 next summer? Probably not. We can't be.
We slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, we do about 50. So I was just thinking about our 200th episode, what we're going to do, but we got some time to think about it.
We have to start planning another extravagant. We try to do an extravaganza every year.
Yeah. Start kicking around what we're going to do.
It's kind of nice to have something in the works. Okay, so we got a voicemail from Fred Grace called in, so let's take a listen to this and see what he's got to say.
All right, Fred, what do you got
Dan,
for
this
us?
is Fred Grace. What you doing, man? So anyway, besides making all my videos and I've been demonetized on YouTube, so I created a news station called Rusty Nuts Used Automotive. Regardless of that, you do understand that the FBI has the X-Files, and it's all been written in TV, and some of the hypersonic speed, some of the craft that are black ops, these are deep black budget X-craft, hyperspeed, they tap into the fourth state of matter known as the electromagnetic field. Bro, you can call me anytime. I'll tell you all about it.
Fred Grace.
Oh, Fred's got some info.
Always love to hear about that stuff. Yeah, he got demonetized too now by YouTube.
It's an outright attack on folks that are trying to expose the truth, you know?
So he's talked about his other channel. We'll give him a shout out here on the show. Why not? So we got Rusty Nuts Used Automotive.
Yeah, he was in the chat during the live show.
Yeah, he
so
did.
that was cool.
Let's click on one of these videos and just
that
give
was
a little taste.
Week ago.
It's like he's looking at old cars here.
Oh, does he work on him? Is that him?
Yeah, that's him.
Sweet, cool. Looks like he lives in a nice area.
Said he was going to build a flying saucer, though.
Well, what a better way to build a flying saucer if you disguise it as like an old street rod like that.
That's a good point.
You know, he makes this look way too easy.
There's this back plate. It can shine. We could drill holes in it, make whatever we want. Oh, then these brakes, you can polish these up, bro. I need a Dremel.
So it's all there if you want to.
Awesome. I could hear in his voice, he's genuinely excited and enjoys that. So that's cool. Awesome. Rusty Nuts.
Oh,
Rusty
yeah.
Nuts.
Yep. I'm forever. It was Fred Grace, right? No,
Yeah,
sorry, Fred.
Grace.
Rusty Nuts. That's what I'm calling you. Very cool.
So yeah, I never let the message. If you guys want to call in with your voicemail, don't be afraid. 1-256-510-5234. 1-256-510 K2D4. Leave a message just like Fred did here. If you want to give a shout out, I don't even care if people want to plug their YouTube channel. Go ahead. We're here to help each other. YouTube is censoring everybody. Where we go one, we go all, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Gotta stick together.
So, yeah. Go ahead and call that number. And there's one more message next week I'll play, or it'll be 2 weeks, on Pete's Thanksgiving episode that I'll play, and we'll get him on air as well. All right. Bermuda Triangle, let's get into this.
Yeah, I think this is a topic, Dan, that everybody knows something about it. You know, I mean, it's pretty out there in pop culture. And
I was always going to cover this before, and I was like, then I looked into it, and I was like, well, and then somebody asked for it. Speaking of which, this topic was suggested by Terry Rosado. She is our moderator in the chat.
Oh, good, Terry. Awesome. Thanks for doing that. It takes a lot of pressure off us.
It does. So I figured, why not do it? We got somebody asking for it. Let's get it up and talk about this stuff. So Bermuda Triangle, let's break this thing down here on screen.
Aircraft, ships, all sorts of stuff go disappearing, time traveling through it and stuff like that, right, Daniel?
Perfect in a nutshell, yes.
Yep.
So the Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle or Hurricane Alley, is loosely defined as a region in the western part of North Atlantic Ocean where a number of aircraft ships are said to have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Most reputable sources dismiss the idea that there is any mystery. So on the map, we got a nice map here of what we're looking at. This area is designated the Bermuda Triangle area. This area is 500,000 to 1.5 mil square miles, depending on who you talk to, because different researchers say it's different size, whatever, because they like to fit a lot of these crashes into the Bermuda Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle, yeah.
So the triangle stretches from Miami, Florida, to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda in the North Atlantic island.
I never realized Bermuda was that far up there. I mean, that's a region the size of the eastern seaboard. That's the Bermuda Triangle. It is all of Florida, and add the whole seaboard in there.
And when you look at how big that triangle actually is.
Yeah, according to that map.
So the American author Vincent Gaddis was the first to define this boundary in 1964 in an issue of the magazine named Argosy, and called the area the Deadly Bermuda Triangle. Other authors extended the boundaries to include other incidences. Now here's where the clicker is. So you can see how big this is, where it's located. It's one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world.
Okay, so you're going to have ships sink because it's traveled more frequently.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, ships going from the Florida area there, or even from Carolinas, Georgia up here. You know, going through if you have to go to South America, Caribbean, and then even over like to Europe if you're, you know, making this stretch run up here to get up there. The cruise ships and pleasure craft regularly sail through the region, and commercial and private aircraft routinely fly over it.
Okay, so it's
Caribbean. You know, they always have those Caribbean trips. They're getting off in Florida.
Yeah.
They usually take off in Florida and then go over.
Yeah, like anybody flying from Florida to Puerto Rico spends the whole trip in the Bermuda Triangle. So we're to take ships and aircraft do not actively avoid it. Okay.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, because I went to my iPhone. I got an app on there that shows flights and where they're going real time, which is kind of fun, folks. I took a snapshot of that area, and sure enough, we got some planes flying right through there. A bunch of them. So this is not avoided. So if there was something big going on here, they're not scared about it. But let's go ahead and look at some incidents. So from 1946 to 1991, there's been over 100 disappearances of ships and planes.
That's more than two a
area.
year. That's significant, though. I mean, what's the global average of plane and ship disappearances?
You're asking a good question. Can you research that while we're on the...
I can try.
Got two birds with one stone here.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go through some incidences. One of the earliest known incidences was Christopher Columbus, which I'm sure you're going to get into on your next episode, Pete.
Actually, not so much. I avoided that because it's not so that, you know, it's about 200 years later when Thanksgiving happens. But
okay,
so not much. I could have though, but I avoided it deliberately.
Okay, so when Columbus came over in 1492, there was reports of him seeing these lit up orbs in the sky in that area. Did his ship sink? No. So another incident here, we're just going to go through these. There's a big one at the end, but I'll cover a few of them. We got March 1918, the USS Cyclops, one of Navy's largest fuel ships. This was a coal carrier, disappeared somewhere north of Barbados. The captain never sent out a distress signal, and nobody aboard even answered any of the calls from the hundreds of ships that were reported in the vicinity. Nice ship, but she sank, or well, I guess they don't really know because they'd never found the debris either. You just assume that it would have sank, of course.
So quick interjection here, Dan. Annually, globally, more than 24 large ships sink or otherwise go missing. So, say 24, that's globally once every 15 days a ship sinks or goes missing.
That's a pandemic then, really.
Yep. And the Bermuda Triangle is 2 per year from up to 91, so it's really not that out of the question that I'd have to really get down and do some math on that, but it's not. It does when you think of that leaves 22 for the rest of the globe. But if it is a highly trafficked area, you're going to see sinking ships and airplanes. That wasn't even airplanes. That was just ships.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the theories at the end here. Let's finish covering some of the incidences. These are the more well-known cases.
Yes. Yep.
So December 1948, a Douglas Dakota DC-3 airplane was carrying 26 people and suddenly disappeared 50 miles from its destination in Florida. The flight sent out its final radio call to indicate its nearby position. It was never heard from again. Again, a plane over Florida area disappears. No wreckage found. Wow.
Yep. Quick interjection. From 1948 to 2014, 85 aircraft have vanished without a trace. Without a trace, vanished. That doesn't include crashes, but vanished without a trace. 85 from 48 to 2014. So you got 50, 60, 66 years. Is that it? I think so. So you get 1.5 airplanes every year disappear without a trace. On average. That's crazy globally.
Yeah, they never did find that Malaysia flight ever. It keeps coming up in the conspiracy
350
feed, but they never found anything.
No, they found some wreckage that I think that they determined wasn't from it, but what plane was it that they've?
I've stayed away from that report actually.
Yeah, it was all a deep state hit anyway.
So you kind of know something about it.
Yeah, there was, I forget. What was it?
Maybe you should do a report on that.
Yeah, I should talk about that, because it's when you look at the people that actually died on that plane and where sole ownership of what company was it?
Interesting.
Got transferred. Anyway, I digress.
That's usually what happens. Okay, so another incident, October 1951, a ship called the Southern District disappeared after being seen near the Bermuda Triangle. 4 years later, in 1955, the only piece of evidence in regards to the ship's whereabouts was discovered off the Florida coast, a life preserver with the missing ship's name printed on it. Cool, at least there's something.
It didn't get
found there.
It didn't necessarily get sucked into a different dimension or anything.
Well, the life preserver didn't, I guess.
Yeah.
So another incident, December 1967, a 23-foot cabin cruiser called Witchcraft was built to be nearly unsinkable. That's like Titanic stuff there, folks. Disappeared along with its 2 passengers aboard, one of whom was an experienced sailor named Dan Burek. The boat featured a flotation device in the hull that should have allowed part of the Witchcraft to remain afloat, no matter how much water was in the boat. About a mile out from Miami Beach, Burek called the Coast Guard after hitting something in the water and also requested a tow back to shore. It was reported that Burek sounded calm during the call, and he didn't mention anything about his boat sinking. But when the Coast Guard finally arrived, Burek and his passenger in the Witchcraft were nowhere to be found and was never seen again. People wonder how 2 men aboard an unsinkable ship equipped with life jackets, flotation seat cushions, flares could have possibly gone missing, let alone the ship itself. Very interesting, like you said.
So he hit something and obviously disabled the ship so he couldn't propel himself anywhere. But you would think a mile from shore is not that far. You'd think the Coast Guard would have covered that in a matter of minutes.
You're right. A mile out from Miami Beach.
Yeah.
Huh.
You'd think that it would have been, I would guess that it probably was under a half hour, and it's probably closer to 15 minutes. I mean, if the Coast Guard, they get a call, they like to open up those boats if they're hammering across the ocean.
Yeah, because if you're not, it's like anything, like these.
They're chasing down drug runners and stuff with those boats, aren't they? So they got to be moving pretty.
To get going too when they have a lot of not much going on. They're going to give her hell.
Yeah, let's go and shoot someone.
But isn't it kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy when you call your boat Witchcraft?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And you know what happens to boats when you claim they're unsinkable, right? Titanic.
Exactly. Never do that. Okay, so now this is one of the biggest stories.
They made a movie about this.
Oh, is there?
I think so.
I've seen some like Discovery Channel stuff about this, reports. But this is one of the big ones here that everybody talks about. Flight 19. So on December 5th, 1945, 5 military TBM Adventure torpedo bombers departed Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at about 2:10 p.m. on a routine training mission. Known as Flight 19, the 5 TBM Avenger airplanes carried a total of 14 men, led by instructor Lieutenant Charles Taylor. Shortly after completing their training mission, Lieutenant Taylor got lost in the area that is now known as the Bermuda Triangle. Since this was an era before the GPS was invented, Taylor and his pilots relied heavily on compasses, both of which were malfunctioning. Out of desperation, one of the pilots sent out an emergency transmission that was picked up by a control tower, and it goes,
"We can't find west. Everything is wrong. We can't be sure of any direction. Everything looks strange, even the ocean."
That was one of the transmissions, and then another transmission came. This was the last transmission, I should say. Goes as follows.
"We can't make anything out. We think we may have about 225 miles northeast of the base. It looks like we are entering white water. We're completely lost."
What does white water mean?
Exactly. So white water. So basically, they're saying this ocean is unrecognizable to them. Several minutes after the last transmission, a PBM Marine flying boat immediately took off on a rescue mission. the boat would radio the control tower once more, also completely vanishing.
So the boat, the flying boat, which can fly and is a boat, also disappeared. The one they sent out to rescue him.
Yep. Crazy, huh? And then in the Navy's final report, when they actually did a full sweep of this thing, in the final report, they said, we're not even able to make a good guess as to what happened.
And what's interesting about this, Dan, is that there were multiple aircraft and they all disappeared. You would have thought that eventually if they hit rough weather or something, one would have popped out and been back in radio contact. It's like that, the whole squadron.
I've read other stories about this Flight 19. Like some of the pilots knew the direction they were going was wrong, but they had to file this Lieutenant Charles Taylor. Like his compass was malfunctioning, but he had to be the leader. Oh. And they had to just follow his orders. So they all ended up dying.
Running out of fuel just turned in the middle of the Atlantic or something.
So I've heard that.
Well, if that radio transmission came in, you would have thought that he would have been talking to the other guys and they would have been like, sorry, hey boss, I think we're going the wrong way. My compass is working and it says this direction, right?
That's what what sounded like what one of the stories said happened. Again, that's not what it says here. So we got two different stories.
Well, and there's, of course, all sorts of variations of it, I'm sure.
Let's get into some of the possibilities of what could be happening here. So we're talking about
methane gas. Is that covered at all?
Was that one of your theories?
I thought I had come across one at some point that it was methane bubbles from the bottom of the ocean due to volcanic activity.
I never even came across that one, but that's not a bad theory either. Yeah,
because it can mess. If it starts gassing off on the ocean, your engines aren't going to work right. It'll actually displace enough water that ships will sink because it'll with the bubbles in a ship. It requires it to displace the amount of water, for buoyancy. When you have bubbles, there's not enough water and then it'll just sink down and then it goes down and then the ocean comes over on top of it. That was a theory that I thought would be plausible, but you would think that eventually people would have figured that out for sure. That's what
is it something that's quick? It's not like something that would take a while where they'd have time to radio somebody.
It would be pretty quick, I would imagine. I mean, it's like there was a video of a volcanic eruption under the ocean I saw once, and it happened pretty quick. But I would think that you would see the turbulent water, and you might get a transmission out quick or something. But I don't know. That was one of the theories that came across that kind of stuck with me. That might be something. It's got to be aliens, Dan.
Right. So back to other theories. So the area we're talking about here, there's deep spots of water in here, like you could say bottomless. It's really deep. And then there's other spots that aren't quite so deep.
Has anybody ever tried to dive or put one of those underground submarine or underwater submarine, remote submarines, that they explore like the Marianas?
They've been going through there and they do find some of the.
But you're talking a minimum of 500,000 square miles.
It's a big area, yeah. And I think there was actually a video I watched that they thought was one of the Flight 19 planes, but they couldn't make out one of the numbers, so they couldn't say for sure it was that. But they were down there and there was a plane down there. Water. Yeah.
Interesting.
And very deep. They had those reinforced sub things.
Yeah.
So again, deep water, this area, tropical storms.
Oh yeah, everyone passes through here.
Yeah, and it's just constantly. And a lot of these, even the authors on some of these, they will leave out that there was a storm in there.
When it happened and stuff. Okay, well
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not legitimate reporting.
And then another thing here we got to be aware of too, there's shallow spots, coral reef. So these shipping container boats or whatever, coal, in the case of the Cyclops, could have slammed into coral reef, bottomed out, and then.
And you know what? If they don't find that in the first couple months and one of these large tropical storms come by, I mean, you've seen before pictures where entire sandbars or islands will be created or destroyed after a hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
And so theoretically, it could be completely covered, in 10, 20 feet of dirt and sand on the ocean floor.
Yeah, so those are still kind of like, if you hit shallow reef or whatever, you'd still have time to like radio in and call for your last destination before you jump over ship. Well, there's a video here I want to show of some waves that could have slammed in.
Oh, one of these rogue wave. Is it like prone to rogue waves?
Let's watch the clip.
Dr. Simon Boxall from the University of Southampton made a splash with one theory.
And then suddenly we get that peak happening just there.
The rogue wave occurs where several wave systems come together and they create a super wave. They're rare, they don't happen very often, but when they do happen, you get a wave that can easily swamp a ship, even at supertanker size.
A potential explanation in the triangle's storm-prone waters.
Oh, right there. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, rogue waves have like disabled cruise ships and stuff, and they're huge,
And that can happen instantly. You're over. You're so focused on what's going on,
and you don't notice the
help.
200-foot wave coming at you that's rolling over, and next thing you know, you're on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, and you don't have time to even call for backup or anything. So, I thought that was a pretty damn good plausible one there.
Yeah, can it explain some? Yeah. Does it explain everyone? No.
No.
I mean, a rogue wave certainly didn't take down Flight 19, right?
Correct. And we'll get into that. So another thing here, we talked about the compass issue on Flight 19. So there's a magnetic phenomenon there as well. So true north and magnetic north actually line up in that area, and it's affected the compass readings, and lightning can intensify the magnetic field. Also, magnetite coming from the bottom of the ocean. There's a underground volcano there, the Bermuda volcano, and it spewed out all this magnetite up to 200 miles radius there.
Interesting.
So it causes compass issues, and again, this is the most magnetic naturally occurring substance on Earth. 500 billion tons around Bermuda.
Yeah, you could do that. It could spin some compasses.
So you kind of go, okay, yeah. And as that technology got better, you could use GPS. You don't have to worry about compasses anymore and all that stuff. So another theory, and this is interesting, air bombs. So there's they actually recently kind of like meteorologists figured this stuff out. From time to time, there'll be these hexagonal clouds and air bombs. From satellite images, meteorologists have recently discovered strange hexagonal clouds that are capable of blasting winds to the ocean below at huge speeds. And such wind can create waves as high as 45 feet. Planes and ships under such clouds can sink in no time. Again, rare, so you're not going to have all these incidents.
Twice a year for 50 years. Again, could explain some. I mean, but you know what? If you've got rogue waves that claim some, you've got air bombs that claim some, pretty soon you're going to have reasons for everything.
You put them all together.
Yeah.
It could be either one.
You know when the last time a ship or plane disappeared in Bermuda Triangle?
You were going to ask. No, I didn't find anything on that. It's actually harder to find stuff than you think about.
2015. The SS El Faro, with a crew of 33 aboard, sank off the coast of the Bahamas within the Bermuda Triangle. October 1st, 2015.
Okay. Well, that's news to me. Okay, a couple out there theories. There's a theory that thinks there's the lost city of Atlantis over there. Theorists believe that the fabled city once resided under the triangle, and mystical crystals which power the Atlantis are still resting on the seabed, transmitting huge waves of energy that destroy the vessels on the sea above. What do you think of that, Pete?
Interesting. Yeah, that's what I think about it.
Another one is the UFO thing. Of course, Columbus with us seeing the orb things. Some writers have blamed UFOs for the disappearances. They believe that aliens use the triangle as a portal to travel to and from our planet. The area is like a gathering station where they capture people, ships, and aircraft to conduct research. Again, kind of hard to prove, but we do know there's USOs, unidentified submerged objects. They got underground bases. Why not have one in the Bermuda Triangle? They could be have some strange power force that knocks it over, whatever. But the whole dimension, you know, I can't say that it can't happen, but who knows?
And, you know, it could be a combination of all the things. So you're really, you know, there could be some naturally occurring stuff in there along with some paranormal stuff.
So a big one here.
Ooh, Hutchison effect.
Hutchison effect,
nice.
yes. So Bruce Gernon actually had a time travel experience going through this electronic fog.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is kind of really interesting here. I want to read these couple paragraphs, and then we'll get into his recent experience with it. So one of the explanations of the Bermuda Triangle disappearance is based on electronic fog, something similar to what the Canadian scientist John Hutchison could demonstrate in his own lab. It is something like grayish cloud of electronic fields that get formed above the ocean. Such electronic fog seems to appear from nowhere and completely engulfs a ship or aircraft. The fog then keeps moving along the ship or the plane, and soon all the electronic systems and instruments start malfunctioning. Nothing works correctly any longer. Spatial disorientation and time distortion starts. And finally, the ship or the aircraft can disintegrate or disappear without a trace. So far, all such instances of electronic fog have been described as supernatural phenomenon or as mere sensational stories from writers wanting to sell their own books on Bermuda Triangle. This is despite the fact that some of the real SOS calls quoting the strange fog actually came from veterans. So back to Flight 19, they said the ocean looks white, doesn't look recognizable. Maybe it was electronic fog.
Yeah, the ocean doesn't look normal, whatever it was said, right? So, you're looking down, you see some weird fog coming up at you, it might discolor what you're looking at.
And not even coming up at you. This follows the plane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just follows. Yep.
So you could see how that could cause an issue. Now, Bruce Gernon had his experience with this. He was with his father in the 1970s, and then elliptical-shaped clouds started forming ahead of them about 3 miles off Andros Island. Before he could get out of the cloud, it engulfed the plane and tunneled around them. While flying through the tunnel at 10,000 feet, they saw the cloud around them forming lines and slowly rotating and spiraling in anti-clockwise direction while propelling them forward. They started having a feeling of zero gravity, and all navigational systems started to collapse. Luckily, the cloud suddenly disintegrated over Miami Beach, and they were again spotted on the radar. But it says, however, they traveled through the tunnel for 100 miles, taking 30 minutes less than the time it would normally take. So there was a little weirdness with it. And the whole electronic fog thing is weird in and of itself. You don't really hear fog staying with you.
Yeah, chasing you.
You can see how that would kind of screw with you. I do have his recent explanation to this here. Oh, let's see if I can blow that up a little bit here. After 31 years of research, Gernon discovered how he had flown those 100 miles in such a short time, had never seen the earth or sky around him. He was captured by what he calls electronic fog. There are dozens of planes and boats that have been in this fog throughout history, and there are dozens more that have crashed because it can induce spatial disorientation. Many have disappeared, and some have even disintegrated. All of the people that have been in through this fog thought they were traveling through the fog. That makes sense. You would think, hey, I'm going to get to the other side, and then you don't. So basically, this fog does attach itself to your plane, and then
just follows you around.
So you're kind of like, you can see how that would screw with you bad. And I think that's actually one of the good explanations for some of these.
That would be interesting. And like ships are supposedly have that happen too. But what would make the ship sink or disappear?
Again, you add the wave in.
So you've got electronic fog and a rogue wave combination. It's a theory. I get it.
I get how you're saying there's going to have to be two different things going on at once, but if it's going to affect the navigation systems. So back to the data, because we were talking about how many ships have sunk into the Bermuda Triangle, and if it's a bad area, why are they still flying planes over it and running their shipping ships through there as well? What I wanted to find was a map of every single shipwreck on the pinned out so you could see it all at once, but I couldn't find anything like that. But I did find this. This is a map of the World War II
Oh my God, look at all that litter.
So just looking at this, now this is World War II. The Bermuda Triangle, is right here. There's not much over there, is there? There's a bunch up by Europe.
Yeah, because that's where a bunch of the war was fought up through there. Over in Japan.
But not as much as you would think if it was
again, Dano, it's like how many ships did they put through it?
And here's another one. So we got the world's regions, most shipwrecks. So this map here has been since 2007. So this is more recent stuff.
What doesn't even have?
Bermuda Triangle doesn't even register. So we got 249 wrecks in the South China Sea.
Oof.
And, a little one up here, Russian Arctic.
That's probably icebergs and stuff.
Right, but a little bit there. Bermuda Triangle doesn't have any.
Not enough to.
There's probably like 2 or something.
Oh, so maybe it's like like mass shootings. They're just overblown. They don't happen that as often as people lead you to believe.
I think that's what it is. And
gotta hope I just didn't get us in trouble there, Dan.
So back to the video I was playing, they kind of have a nice wrap up on this. I thought it was appropriate to play it, so we'll listen to this.
Well, according to Lloyd's of London, there are no more losses in the Bermuda Triangle than anywhere else in the ocean. And yet,
what is it about human nature, even for the skeptics like you and me professionally, that just maybe?
I think that we're also storytellers, right? We're the storytelling animal. As an anthropologist, that's the way I look at it. We really want to be a part of a big story.
So we want to believe.
We want to believe, and it's important that we try to believe, because that is the impetus for scientific understanding.
In this case, perhaps we should embrace both fact and fiction.
Wow. I cannot believe how many wrecks we saw.
It's the story of Bermuda. It's a shipwreck island.
For today, Carrie.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because you put it into perspective, Dan. It's like, and they summed it up well. It doesn't happen any more frequently anywhere than anywhere else. And I think we kind of got to that on our own without them telling us that. But I think with the Bermuda Triangle and what makes it interesting is like the circumstances surrounding them is like that. Yeah, maybe we lose a lot of ships, but there's some weird stuff that goes on in there, and that's what keeps people interested in it and thinking that anybody that goes in there is going to die. No, well, maybe it happens as much or even less in other areas, but when it does happen, you have Air Force pilots saying, "I don't know what's going on. The ocean looks weird," and
right.
Folks that just disappear. A plane disappears, and then the rescue plane disappears. That's kind of unique, but. It'll be interesting to see in more modern times if those trends continue. I mean, I looked online and it only shows us just a handful in the last, decade or so that have disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know if it was such a big thing, a lot of people would avoid the area.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest plausible ones here are the waves, the hexagonal clouds, and then the electronic fog.
But have they even proved electronic? Was that proven electronic fog?
Hutchison did.
Well, yeah, I know, and I like John, and we're Facebook buddies.
Are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He does some interesting stuff every now. I've talked to him a couple times about weird stuff. He's an interesting fellow, I will say that. Okay, I think electronic fog is being met with skepticism. I would not say it is that is accepted by scientific consensus yet. Not that makes it any more right or wrong. Just want to say that.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to look at theories and different angles.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of explanations here that it could be. So take it for what it is. There's more shipwrecks elsewhere. South China Sea is the big one. And like you said, I guess it's more about the mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, it makes for a good story, doesn't it, Dan?
Keeps people going. But I always thought, like, when you heard Bermuda Triangle, it's like, oh, stay away from that area. You don't want to go in there. Oh, you go in there, you're not going to come back out. That's how I always thought it was. Yeah. But it's not. It's not like that. And if it was, they wouldn't send those ships through there. They wouldn't send the planes through there and all that stuff. So I hope you guys got something out of this broadcast. If there's something I missed, please put it in the comments below and say, hey, you missed this theory, that it could be too. we're open to everything. That's what we're here to do, is discuss this. We don't. I don't come claiming that I know everything.
Yeah, we overlook stuff. We just enjoy getting together and talking about this crazy stuff and try to enlighten some folks, share some informations, and I'll tell you what, if we're wrong, we're wrong. We'll admit it.
All right. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks to those listening on the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. We are there audio only. And I wanted to say, I almost thought the audio podcast was actually, it would almost be more like your brain works more because you're listening to something and you're trying to figure.
And you're picturing. Yeah, you're putting things in your mind and
so
stuff.
Like with YouTube, when you have stuff, people are just skipping through it because they want information now.
Yeah, they want to see the pictures. Yeah. I'm guilty of that too. I want to see the videos, the pictures and stuff. And we do a lot of talking, but.
When you listen to a podcast, you're either in your car, or you're working out or something, you actually have time for the whole thing and can actually.
Yeah, the podcasts I've listened to, I enjoy a lot. Yeah, they're good. They're great.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're there as well. I'd love to see those numbers get up even more. So thank you guys for joining us. Dan Hohlfeld, Pete Halbleib.
Yo, Planet Earth. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening. Visit K2D4Network.com today.